Ludum Dare 39. Ludum Dare 39 was an experience of ups and downs, for sure. There were a lot of things that went right on my project, and a lot of things that went wrong. But before I go any further, I'd like to give you all a chance to play it. So if you have access to a computer, go ahead and hit the link in the description below. That'll take you right to my game, and you'll be able to play it right within your web browser. So go ahead, go play it right now. It's pretty short, it won't take you that long. It's okay, I'll wait. Okay, you're back. Great. Fantastic. Hope you enjoyed it. So, the task of making a game within a 48-hour period is a pretty tough one, especially if you've never done something like this before. As I've mentioned, Ludum Dare 39 is not only my first Ludum Dare event, but my first game jam in general, and it was also the first time I ever tried live streaming on Twitch. So I kind of just threw myself in the deep end on this one, and I'm glad that I came out of it with something. I mean, there's a lot wrong with the finished product, and you may have even noticed that while you're playing it, but it is a finished product, so at the end of the day, I'll hang my hat on that. So what I'd like to do right now is do an official post-mortem for my Ludum Dare 39 game project, where I'll basically just go over what went right, what went wrong, and kind of overall thoughts on the whole experience. So real quickly, I'd just like to explain what my game was and kind of what I was thinking when I was designing it. So the theme of Ludum Dare 39 was running out of power. And the game I came up with was a game that I called a Dwindling Hero. Basically, you play as a guy named Stan, who is a retired superhero, who comes out of retirement to destroy all the robots that have taken over his world. And unfortunately, Stan's kind of getting up there in age, and he quickly discovers that his powers aren't what they used to be. In fact, he learns that he is running out of power. And so basically at the end of each level, you have a number of skills and you choose which skill you want to decrease your power level in. So normally at the end of a level in a video game, you choose which skills you want to upgrade, but this is sort of the opposite where you choose which skills you want to downgrade. So I thought that was sort of a unique little idea, and I really wanted to show that uniqueness right off the bat. So you notice before you even play a level in the game, you choose which power you want to decrease your skill level in. And so that's done intentionally because I know during the judging period, you know, a lot of people are playing a bunch of different games, and some people may not even play through the first level, even though it's super short. But maybe they die really quickly, or they just don't like how it looks or feels. And so the idea was to get that unique mechanic put right out to the player before they even play the game at all. So that's sort of the general idea of the game. So let's talk a bit about the development. So we'll start off with what went wrong, because there's quite a bit that went wrong. So first item, and this is probably the most pertinent to you all, is Twitch streaming. So I really just don't think I did a great job at all at Twitch streaming, and there are a number of reasons for that. First and foremost, I'm a rather introverted person, and this is especially true when I'm developing games. You know, when I'm thinking of what to make and everything, my brain's just kind of going all over the place, and I'm getting in, I'm trying different things out. This isn't working, that's not working, let's try this, let's try that. And when I'm doing that, for me, it's kind of hard to put into words a lot of times what I'm trying to do, and even then something rapidly changes, so I'm doing something a little different, and so that might get a little bit confusing to the viewer. I'm not really sure, and especially because I'm kind of learning some things on the fly, and I don't always know the best way to go about doing things. So a lot of the time the camera was just kind of on me and had my screen up, and it was me just silently doing my work, and I don't know how entertaining that really is, because I did see some people pop in and the view count popped up a little bit and then popped down not too much longer after. But there were a few nice people who I didn't know who popped in the chat for a little bit, and we were having some nice little back and forth conversations, so that was kind of nice. And the one thing that I'm not really a huge fan about on Twitch streaming is I really hate that feeling of that someone's like looking over my shoulder and looking at the work I'm doing. It's just kind of like a mental thing for me, and I start thinking about like, oh, what might this person be thinking of what I'm doing? And so that being on the internet kind of amplified that. And so there are a couple times when I was Twitch streaming where I just put the away message up and just kind of sat back, took a breath, and figured out the issue that I was having problems with. Not live on camera, but just kind of behind the scenes there. That being said, I do think live streaming is really cool, and I'd like to do more of it in some form or another. And I still plan to live stream me playing a bunch of Ludum Dare games, but as far as streaming my development, I think that might be more suited for if I'm working in a team of people, and I'm kind of thinking out loud anyways and talking about what I'm doing rather than kind of internally thinking it. I just think that might lead to more entertaining broadcasts. And one last thing on Twitch, I just think it was a pretty big distraction for me. You know, I was almost instinctively looking over at my screen that had my Twitch stream open, you know, looking at the view count, looking at the chat. Even though there wasn't a whole lot of exciting stuff going on, I think I was just kind of generally curious. And so that was kind of a distraction to me, so that's why I didn't stream the second half of Saturday or at all on Sunday. So the next thing that went wrong was planning. So I never really wrote out an official plan of what I wanted to do and when I wanted to get it done by. It was really on the fly of me just kind of writing out different tasks and then mentally thinking of like, when can I get this done by? And I feel like every aspect of my game kind of suffered a little bit from not really planning. For example, when I think about the code that I wrote, I picture a house built on a bunch of rickety stilts where if any one of them breaks, the whole thing's coming down. And a lot of my art is super basic, and my game just sounds like this. Yeah, there's no sound in my game at all. But maybe that's just kind of how game jams go. Again, I don't really know. I've never done one. Now, probably the biggest and most obvious thing that went wrong was level design. There's almost no level design in my game at all whatsoever. And with mentally planning, it was pretty tough to make deadlines for myself. For example, I wanted the first level to be playable and all features completed Saturday evening, so then on Sunday I could focus on level design and polish and everything else. Well, I didn't get the first level done until Sunday at 4 p.m. But that's how game development goes. You put one thing in and it interacts with all the other different things that you've already done completely in no logical fashion whatsoever. And so now not only do you need to go debug this new thing, but go back and debug some of the things that you thought were already solid. And so the biggest and most obvious thing that went wrong was level design. Now there is almost zero level design in my game at all. And that's simply due to the fact that I ran out of time. I mean, Sunday all day I was jamming hard on this game. Like, I was just so laser focused, going back and forth between all these different things. And so yeah, at the end of the day, I was just kind of scrambling to throw a bunch of levels together, because kind of the whole point of my game is that you need multiple levels in order to make the choices that you make have some sort of meaning. So yeah, because of the poor level design, that's why the game is super short and just overall pretty easy. The next thing that went wrong was the platform that I built my game on. So I built my game for Unity's WebGL, and that's why you can play the game in a browser, and it's super accessible to a lot of people, and I did that on purpose. Now, I've never built a game for WebGL, and so there were all sorts of challenges that came with that. For example, I was thinking that I could just make a WebGL build and then be able to play it locally on my computer through like Google Chrome or something. Unfortunately, that's not the case. It needs to be uploaded and living on the internet. At least I think. I really haven't looked into it too much since I was having these issues. And so that made it really annoying for testing out builds of my game on the actual platform that it was designed for rather than within the game engine's editor, because I'd have to make a build of the game, which for some reason takes like 6 times longer than building for a PC, and then I need to upload it to a website, and then I can go play it, but it takes like a minute to load. And remember, I'm in a 48-hour game jam, like every minute counts. So that was sort of annoying, but that was just me not being prepared for that. And this sort of leads into the next thing that went wrong with my game. Now, something that was absolutely critical to the game that I was designing was having a leaderboard system in place. I knew that because my game was so short, I wanted people to play it over and over again to try out different choices and ultimately just find a way to get a higher score. And there's no better way to do that than friendly competition. So I thought it would be a really cool idea to have a global leaderboard of all the Ludum Dare players who are playing my game to be able to put their name on the high score list. Now, when I uploaded my game and tested this out, literally like half an hour before the deadline, I come to find out that there's issues with WebGL and the way I'm trying to send this leaderboard data out to the internet. Basically, my leaderboard doesn't work in a web player. So I was like, okay, shoot, what am I gonna do? I have 30 minutes left. I can't like set up a server how they want me to. So I was like, you know what? If people want to be on the leaderboard, they might be willing to download a build of my game and play it locally on their computer so they can access the leaderboard. So what I did is where the leaderboard went, I basically just wrote out a message saying, you know, dear player, leaderboard doesn't work. If you want to be on the leaderboard, download my game. I'll link to the file below. So I was like, okay, cool. Made a build of that, uploaded it to the website, go to test it out, make sure everything's all good, play the very first level of the game, and the camera doesn't work. The camera doesn't follow the player. The camera just stays there and the player runs off the screen and you have no idea what you're doing. And still to this minute, I have no idea why that's happening. When I play the game in the editor, it works just fine. So now I'm like really freaking out because it's getting dangerously close to the deadline. So I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna save my project, save everything. I'm gonna close out of Unity, open it back up again, make a fresh new build of it, and then fingers crossed that everything works. So I'm going through that process, I save everything, close out of Unity, and then I say, you know what, I have a bunch of these like extra builds sitting in this folder, I should just go ahead and delete all those. So I highlight them all, shift delete, permanently delete. Wait. I just deleted my fucking project. Yes, I permanently deleted my fucking project right before it was due. Like, who the fuck does that? Works on a game for 48 hours and then just deletes it right at the end. You fucking boy. But thankfully, not all was lost. I did have that build with the broken camera, and then I also had the first one that I made where I found out the leaderboard didn't work. Luckily, everything else worked. So thankfully, by some miracle, I still had that one and was able to upload it, and that's what I ended up submitting. But man, after that happened, I was so pissed off. I don't know if you guys have ever like worked on something and then something happened where it was just gone. I don't know about you, but man, when I did that, I was just filled with so much rage because I completely did that to myself. That was 100% my fault. That was totally my fuck up. And even though it's fine, I still cannot believe I did that. I mean, I nearly snapped the arms on my desk chair clean off after I did that. But man, luckily I have something, but the only disappointing thing is that now no one can participate in the global leaderboard. And I think it's safe to say that this is a project I will never go back to. And that's fine, it's not really that great anyways. So basically, there's a lot of truth to the saying that everything that can go wrong will go wrong. And so on that lovely low note, let's talk about what went right in the development of my game. First and foremost, I have a finished product. I have a game that I made every single asset, every single line of code, and every single level, no matter how bad the level design. And I did it in 48 hours. Which is not that long. So I am pretty proud of myself for that. Also, I think my art and animation is surprisingly good. I mean, it's not good when compared to anyone else, but it is much better than I thought it was gonna be. A lot of that was thanks to the drawing tablet that I have. I mean, it's a really nice drawing tablet, and the people who know how to use those well can do things that are just like unbelievable. But for me, it made making little stupid cartoon things super simple. So I was able to pump out a couple character models, some environment assets, and just other little odds and ends here and there. So I'll put these up on the screen right now. So of course we have Stan. Stan is the main character of the game, and his animation is super simple. It's just him bobbing his head up and down. I think it's just overall kind of silly. Next we have the crawler enemy, and his feet just do a super simple walk cycle, and the buttons on him flash a couple different little colors. And then we have my favorite one, which I actually probably spent the least amount of time on because I needed to design this enemy and implement his behavior into the game with like 2 or 3 hours left. But this is the flying enemy, and so he's got a cool little green propulsion thing going on under him, and then his eyes are kind of doing that Knight Rider type thing. So yeah, that one's probably my favorite. And also his behavior is pretty cool. If you notice when you're playing the game and you just kind of stand there and he flies up to you, they'll actually start like jumping on top of you, which was kind of an unintentional behavior, but I think it fits so well with that enemy that I just left it in the game. And so that brings me to my last point of what went right in my development. And it's just kind of moments where it all clicks. I have to say that's easily my favorite part about developing games. It's that moment that when you're working on something so hard and it all just comes together and works right, works how you want it to. Maybe you're mimicking something from another game and you're kind of testing it and it's not working quite how you want it to, and then one time you go to test it and it's just like boom, and you're like, that's that thing from that game that I love. You're like, I did that. It looks cool, it feels good, it may be a little bit buggy, but it's like 95% there. And so I have moments like those in every single game project that I've worked on, and it's just like one of those self-gratifying things that makes all the stress of it kind of worth it. It's just a great feeling of excitement and accomplishment, because making a video game is by no means an easy thing, and when it finally clicks, it's the best feeling ever. Now, so to wrap this all up, I'd just like to read a little excerpt of something that I wrote last night. So to give you a little bit of backstory, after I submitted my game, I was super tired, and justifiably so. I mean, I was working on a single game for 48 hours straight, so I was pretty burnt out, but still kind of coming down off of all that rage from deleting my project. So I was just like super restless, and probably around like 2 or 2:30 in the morning, I decided to just get up and write a postmortem. And I'm not going to read the whole thing because it was just kind of something that I wrote at like 2 in the morning. And I feel like this does a much more thorough job of what that was trying to accomplish. That was more something to clear my head and help me fall asleep than anything else. But I think the last paragraph sums it all up very well. Overall, I did have fun, and I still will never get over that feeling of making something in a game that looks or feels just oh so right. Moments like those makes all the stress and anxiety worth it. I know that even though a lot went wrong or not as I planned it, I still gave it everything that I got. And at the end of the day, I created a game 100% from scratch by myself, and no one can take that away from me. Except myself. Almost. So that's just about all I have to say on the development of a dwindling hero, my Compo entry for the Ludum Dare 39 Game Jam. So if you made it all the way here and you enjoyed this video, please give it a big ol' like. If you're just coming across my channel for the first time, hit that subscribe button for a bunch of other really cool independent video game development content. And of course, let me know what you think of my crappy game in the comment section below. And I hope you all have a fantastic rest of your day.